Hi, everybody. I'm Charlene O'Hanlon, Managing Editor at DevOps.com and DevOps TV, and I'm here at the DevOps Enterprise Summit 2018, Day 2 here in Las Vegas, and having some really interesting conversations so far. This next conversation that I'm going to be having, I'm really excited about because this is an update, if you will, from Capital One, talking about their transformation and their DevOps journey per se, with the inclusion of council, which traditionally has been a roadblock, as I'm sure a lot of you have experienced yourselves. So to my immediate left is Aimee Bechtle, who is the Acting Director of IT Network Delivery at Capital One. Then next to her is Jamie Specter, who is Counsel of IP and Technology. And next to Jamie is Abbie Gray, who's Product Manager at Card Machine Learning at Capital One. So welcome, ladies. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining me today.
Thank you.
I am just so excited that legal is part of the conversation these days. So I would love to get kind of an update from you guys, how you are successfully managing the DevOps process with the inclusion of legal counsel, and where you guys are moving forward.
I think Jamie and Topo hit it on the head when they were talking about open source and how integrated the legal counsel is with the open source process and how instrumental it is in Capital One's journey in our tech transformation.
And on the other side of that, from a product and customer standpoint, it's allowed us to have more flexibility and faster end market value by not having to create things from scratch. So we leverage out open source technologies to build some of these machine learning platforms that and using open source tools that get us better customer experiences in a safe, secure way in partnership with Jamie.
Yeah, and I think one thing I definitely will highlight from the very beginning is we have Aimee, we have Abbie. They are bringing in legal, and they're keeping us updated from the very, very beginning. We actually feel like we're part of the team. I think I encourage everyone to always look at their legal department as partners. It really, really does add a lot of value to the process versus getting to the end of something and then having to, take a few steps back. If we're involved from the beginning, we can make some really great accomplishments together.
Yeah, it seems like the legal aspect, and a lot of times even the security aspect, those are kind of last minute, right before it goes to release, that that they're involved, and it seems as though, and in fact I'm sure it is, that the earlier they're involved, the smoother the process goes. But why do you think companies in general or developer teams are reticent to bring legal in? Why do they think of you guys as like the big bad boogeyman?
Well, we touched, Topo and I touched on it a little bit during our presentation today, but I think when it comes down to it is legal is always associated with saying no, right? And I think that comes down to just starting the conversation, educating your legal department about what you're trying to do so that you can discuss those risks up front. And that kind of makes everyone comfortable. You put in the right controls throughout the process, but it really is just like looking at them as a partner and bringing them in from the beginning. And also having a legal team that is part of your culture and is open-minded as well.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And the Target speech just a minute ago, they talked about making it a we product and a we project in customer experience. So in the past, it's almost been a fear of the unknown, and that I know Jamie's going to say no, so let me try to hide this until the last minute and then make them the bad guy. But when you bring Aimee into the team, it completely changes things and makes it easier and faster to get to market in a safe way.
Yeah.
As DevOps, I also believe we embrace agility, and both DevOps and agility are risk mitigation activities. And I think that we're trying to change that paradigm and that process of bringing in legal late and trying to change our mindset to align with our principles at their core of DevOps and Agile, which is let's mitigate risk, let's do it early on, and if we're going to fail fast, let's fail now.
Yeah.
So how involved are you in the conversations pertaining to DevOps? Is it the tools, the processes? Where are you in that conversation?
Sure, that's a great question. So right now, my role is primarily focused on open source and how that can be embedded into the DevOps culture, just mitigating the risk. We have an open source governance committee, an open source program, and so they actually are responsible for pulling in legal, pulling in for the different pulling security that you mentioned earlier. So we are, when it comes to tooling, we actually partner with our development community throughout the entire process as we continue to build out the larger DevOps process of where the risks are, and then what the DevOps, what the experts in that process do is they actually hear our risks and they translate those into processes and automation where that's appropriate.
Abbie, you mentioned the fact that open source has allowed you guys to do a lot of different things. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit, and how maybe the issue of security is being addressed with that?
Yeah, sure. So, using a real life example, I have a machine learning platform within the card business that leverages Google's Kubernetes technology. So with that, that comes with out of the box free things like logging and monitoring and auto scaling. So really cool things that if we were to sit down and try to create, it would be a huge investment and take away from things that are more in our wheelhouse that we can deliver on faster and better. So within that, and having the checks and going to the open source office, it allows us to be comfortable knowing that we have all the security boxes checked. And we have some DevOps processes underneath that are automatic security scans and checks and things like that to make sure on a daily basis that we are compliant with all the updates that have been coming out.
So Aimee, how has that kind of affected the tool chain? Are you guys making any special considerations for using more open source than proprietary?
Absolutely. We have a strong tool chain and scanning tools that are part of most of our pipelines and required in the process for deploying to production that are pretty ubiquitous and the development teams are adopting up front. So we do have the guardrails in place as in the guidance. And I haven't seen an issue where we've released something, a vulnerability, or have been at risk with choosing open source.
Well, that's great.
And one thing I do kind of want to piggyback on what Aimee said is that we have the tools right in place, and I'm using those tools as legal counsel. I'm in there using the tools, communicating with our developers through those tools so that they don't have to take a different step and do something extra. So I am actually learning it. I send requirements to development teams on a daily basis. They joke actually that I should get my own engineer to help code the requirements, because I'm always thinking about what is the best experience for the developer, while also obviously being mindful of the legal risk. So I'm right there in it as well.
That's great. That's great. And I think that's probably something that a lot of companies would do well to consider as they, especially as they adopt more open source tools and open source technologies in general. Having legal as more than just like a last minute check off box, but actually part of the process, I think would help move the needle a lot farther with a lot of companies. So, ladies, thank you very much for the update. I really appreciate it. It's such a fascinating topic. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.